What did you see as like the most important gatekeepers that needed to be overturned?
It was the Zionist Jews. I see Jewishness as the common denominator. I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. Jewish identity, the Jewish religion. Clearly, the state of Israel and the neocons are deeply motivated by that ethnic identity. The plan of greater Israel, it stems from this ethno-religion, which is Judaism.
I get what you're saying. The Christian Zionists, I dislike them more than anybody. I'm denounced as an anti-Semite every day. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care what ADL thinks of me.
They have been messing with me for my entire adult life. The SPLC posted my house on their website.
And then someone showed up with a gun and tried to kill you at that house?
Yes.
I am a Riva and I was taught how to pray Salah.
That means every single time I pray,
the person who taught me gets the reward.
5 times a day, from Fajr to Isha.
If you want to support someone like me in learning Salah,
then sponsor 10 people for just £100.
Remember the Prophet, peace be upon him, said,
charity does not decrease wealth. Click the button and donate now.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's Salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to support the channel. I just saw an unexpected collaboration between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. What made this especially interesting was how these two individuals have many contrasting viewpoints, as well as past grievances, but were able to find common ground on their political positions opposing Israel. Tucker outlined how he has been on the receiving end of Zionist extremism through targeted harassment campaigns for speaking up for the people of Gaza, as did Nick. However, Nick Fuentes took it a step further and blamed radical Judaism and Jewish supremacy for the overall problem. Let's watch the first clip.
What did you see as like the most important gatekeepers that needed to be overturned, pushed aside in order to do this?
It was the Zionist Jews, like Dave Rubin, like Ben Shapiro, like Dennis Prager, the guys that were really controlling the media apparatus that seemed to me to be the biggest impediment.
Fox is not a Jewish business, though.
Well, Rupert Murdoch is an ally of Netanyahu, so he's aligned.
Yeah.
And he owns the whole News Corp empire. So, and yeah, he's certainly a part of it also. The more that I dug into the subject, the more I found out there's a lot of these neocon Jewish types behind the Iraq war. There's the foreign aid complex, which is really unique. There's AIPAC, which is this intense foreign lobby where it's bipartisan. It seems to be the only thing that the parties can agree on. I read The Israel Lobby by Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt, and they break it down very succinctly that there's no real strategic benefit. Actually, there's strategic liability. Eastern Mediterranean is not a strategically important region. The intelligence that Israel provides is not useful. Actually, it's detrimental because they frequently lie. The technology we give them, they pass along to the Chinese, which was a big scandal.
Like, I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq. I mean, obviously, I'm denounced as an anti-Semite every day. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care what ADL thinks of me. I always thought it's great to criticize and it's question like our relationship with Israel because it's insane and it hurts us. We get nothing out of it. I completely agree with you there. But the second you're like, well, actually, it's the Jews.
I guess my substantive disagreement is the idea that neoconservatism and Israel has nothing to do with Jewishness, Jewish identity, the Jewish religion, because clearly the state of Israel and the neocons are deeply motivated by that ethnic identity, and their allegiance to Israel proceeds from that. You know, the plan of greater Israel, the blood and soil nationalism of Israel, it stems from this ethno-religion, which is Judaism.
I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that. Neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, like, how do you explain the Christian Zionists? Like, what is that? I can just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because Because what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
Nick listed off Zionist Jews in the conservative media space, such as Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager, as being guilty of brainwashing people in the West into supporting Israel to their own detriment. Tucker posed a valid question regarding the motives of non-Jewish mainstream media moguls like Rupert Murdoch. Nick answered correctly by outlining how Murdoch also serves Zionist interests, due to him being closely aligned with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I'll add that Rupert Murdoch is also one of the biggest investors in building illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Nick also blamed Jewish neocons for orchestrating the US invasion of Iraq under false pretenses of weapons of mass destruction, which again greatly benefited Israel, a war which Netanyahu is on camera pushing for years before it took place. Nick also called out the foreign Israeli lobby, AIPAC, which buys off US politicians and political parties in order for them to do Israel's bidding. Nick Fuentes correctly pointed out that there is no actual benefit to the US from being allied with Israel, due to how the Israelis provide false intelligence information and steal American technological secrets. And that's not to mention all the false flag attacks Israel has carried out against the US over the decades on American soil and on international waters, but I digress. Tucker acknowledged and expressed anger at the neocons committing fraud to invade Iraq, and highlighted how the ADL, an aggressive Jewish advocacy group, has launched a targeted harassment campaign against him by labelling him an anti-Semite for simply calling out America's relationship with Israel as being of no benefit to the US. Nick made the claim that all of this is tied together by Jewish ethno supremacy and radical aspects of Judaism, which are being interpreted in a manner that results in colonizing land and killing people across the Middle East. Tucker pointed out that this supremacy issue does not apply to all Jewish people by giving the example of numerous Christian Zionists, who he correctly described as disgusting traitors. Let's roll the next clip.
Coordinated attacks against totally reasonable questions about what's in America's interest and what's not. Those are all coordinated by the Israeli government. It's all come to light now. And they're against me. I've always thought I have the world's most moderate position on Israel. Just don't want to get involved in their wars. Don't want to pay for this. Don't want to pay for abortion on demand in a foreign country. Sorry. When we're cutting food stamps on our own, that's outrageous. It's not America first. That's my view. Not embarrassed of it at all. They are totally determined to take me out, I think because I'm reasonable. Who would disagree with that? And call me all these names, the most dangerous anti-Semite, when I'm not even an anti-Semite. And they're not doing that to you because, this is my view, and this is not necessarily your fault, but because they're like, Fuentes discredits the reasonable people because he's always banging on about the Jews. And so he makes everyone else look like a Nazi. And so it's like he's playing a pretty valuable role in the same way that Israel has always funded extremism throughout the Middle East, including Hamas, because it discredits the reasonable people. That's a fact.
Yeah. I would just say I disagree. I mean, because you said the other day, they like me. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that, because
I don't know.
Let me just kind of rebut that.
Well, by the way, I'm not saying you have anything to do with this. I'm just saying I've noticed the phenomenon.
Totally. And I just reject that because they have been messing with me for my entire adult life. I mean,
the ADL.
The ADL got me banned on YouTube. The SPLC posted my house on their website.
What do you mean posted your house?
They posted a photo of my house on their website.
How can they do that?
I guess that's a free speech thing.
The SPLC posted a picture of your house on their website?
Yes.
When?
In 2022. On the front page, the picture for the article is my house where I live.
That's crazy. And then someone showed up with a gun and tried to kill you at that house?
Yes. So that's why I say, you say, well, they're not doing this to you. It's like the ZOA, the SPLC, the ADL, the Daily Wire. All these groups have been on me for years. So that's news to me if they're really endorsing my activities.
It could just be my perception. One of the reasons that I'm mad about Gaza is because the Israeli position is everyone who lives in Gaza is a terrorist because of how they were born, including the women and the children. That's not a Western view, and that's totally incompatible with Christianity and Western civilization. They say, oh, we're the defenders of Western civilization. Not with that attitude. You're not. Collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Yeah.
So I hate that attitude. It's genocidal.
Tucker Carlson was spot on when he said the Israeli regime is guilty of launching coordinated attacks in the form of false accusations and character assassination against anyone who questions the control they have over foreign governments. Tucker again spoke about how he has fallen victim to this for simply being against his country funding Israel, instead of using that money to improve the lives of American citizens. Tucker made a valid point when he said Nick Fuentes' reputation does at times make him into somewhat of a useful idiot for the Israeli side when it comes to discrediting more moderate and reasonable voices. Nick's very many anti-Muslim and white nationalist statements are prime examples of this. Tucker made the valid comparison of how Nick's controversial takes have been utilised by Israeli propagandists to generalise all their critics, in the same way the Israeli government has deliberately funded extremism in the Middle East to generalise all Muslims as being evil. But to be fair to Nick, I think he's made a massive dent in Israel's reputation regardless, because of his huge following and due to him being one of the first people online to be brave enough to expose their corruption so brazenly at a time when it was a career-ending move to do so. And like he said, pro-Israel propaganda groups hate him for this, maybe even more so than Tucker, which is evident from the heavy amount of blacklisting he's been on the receiving end of throughout the years. But to be 100% transparent, some of that censorship also has to do with Nick's horrible and racist past takes on the black community and other minorities. Like Tucker, I was shocked to find out that Nick was doxxed by the SPLC, another Jewish-funded organisation that resulted in people turning up at his home with firearms. Tucker quite rightly expressed disgust at the Israelis for dehumanising the people of Gaza by stereotyping them all as extremists, and he correctly labelled this a genocidal ideology that is not compatible with Western civilization. I would say this applies to any civil society, and that Tucker's stance is much more balanced and fair than the majority of Western politicians. Let's watch the last clip.
I mean, as far as the Jews are concerned, I think that, like I said, you cannot actually divorce Israel and the neocons and all of those things that you talk about from Jewishness. Ethnicity, religion, identity. You say on your show that we need to treat Israel like any other country. And I sort of understand that in principle, because Israel is another foreign country.
Yeah.
But Israel is unlike every other country. If you are a Jewish person in America, there's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. They have this international community that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. There's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that. And in particular, the historic animosity between the Jewish people and the Europeans. They hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple.
Yeah, things may be generally true, but in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. Jeff Sachs is like the most wonderful man, who's Jewish, and most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of.
I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right, it's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said the other day. If you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one, because it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or the anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I mean, I don't know. That's not hard. So how would you like this all to be resolved?
What I would like is for the U.S. government to not be influenced by these kinds of foreign allegiances, not with money that comes from, American citizens like Sheldon Adelson, not from foreign lobbyists. So, I mean, in terms of tangible things, I don't think we disagree on any of it. Like registering AIPAC and FARA, banning dual citizenship. Like I'm basically in agreement.
I think 80% of the public agrees with those things. Don't let foreign powers, especially tiny ones far away, control your country. Like, of course not. Everyone agrees with that on both sides.
Yeah.
Nick doubled down on Jewish ethnic and religious supremacy being the main factor fueling the toxic culture in Israel. He also spoke about how he considers the same supremacist mindset and culture to be prevalent amongst pro-Israeli Jews across the world, who put the interests of the nation of Israel before their birth countries. I can see how this can be problematic if such people are in positions of power and exploit others outside of their group to further the Zionist cause. Nick also claimed that Israelis resent non-Jewish Europeans for historic reasons, which is ironic since the majority majority of Israelis are of European descent themselves. Tucker was correct when he said that there are many Jewish people who oppose Israel and this separatist ideology, which is true. These admirable Jewish people are some of the most vocal advocates for the Palestinian cause, who have risked everything in the name of justice and equality for all human beings. But like Nick said, the challenge is that these brilliant individuals are heavily outnumbered by the supremacists in their community, many of whom are powerful elites that are hell-bent on implementing their ideology on a global scale. Nick and Tucker agreed on the fact that such people with dual loyalties, especially on a military level, should be stripped of their nationalities and permanently banished to Israel. I think this should be applied to anyone who was born in the West yet served in the IDF during the Gaza genocide, along with them being prosecuted for war crimes. As Tucker and Nick said, the majority of the Western public recognise and want to be free of Israeli interference and control over their countries. The challenge now is how we can all work together to make this mass awakening into a reality. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join my free Telegram group via the link in the description, and remember to like, subscribe and become a channel member for access to exclusive content. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.